Step 3, sequencing. So this is an example of what the page will look like in your book, and this is a mock-up. So there's actually a blend of the two pages there. There's one where you do the designs, which we were just talking about previously, and then there's the part where you're going to sequence the process, give it a reference number, and then start to detail it under the sequencing pages. So we're going to go through this step by step. This is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, really super easy to do. This is the transition point where we go from the bigger picture to details, and we're able to go from the details to the bigger picture based on the reference number and understanding the sequence. So let's get started. So the first part is, okay, so we have the example here. Again, we've been using the example of Instagram. So this is a 12 step length sequence, okay? And what we want to do is we want to number every part. And I want you to pay attention to number 1 and 2. If you notice that the sequence is not just it actually moving to the next part. There is a process where sometimes you have more than one thing that's involved in the single process. And as you can see, number 1 and 2, and then 4 and 5 are exact examples. And even 5 and 6 also have that there, where integrations are being mentioned, and we also have the limitations there. So we understand what the hard, soft, and knockout limits are. So we know when we do the inputs. So example, the input, which are the creatives that we're creating, and we know that we can only do 3 posts a day before we get flagged, then we're going to be doing 10 days. So it's a total of 30. It doesn't make sense to go produce 50 or 100 posts, right? Just not logical. So we create that at the very beginning. Again, I'm using hypothetical numbers for anyone who's listening and who's like, those aren't the right numbers. They probably aren't the right numbers. I'm using this as a hypothetical example. So that's what this is about. So we create the sequence. We go 1 through all the way through. In this particular case is 1 through 12. And then we start creating the reference numbers. So the reference number is a number that we're going to put in sequence on the sequence pages. So we're going to look at number 1 in the design, where I put the reference number, and I'm going to put the same number in the sequence. So 1 matching with 1, 2 matching with 2, 3 matching with 3, and so on and so forth. What you don't want to do is, I'm just going to point out a really important function here. If you notice in the lines where you're actually going to write your notes, we have a highlighted element where it has like a heavy highlight. That heavy highlight is designed so that the reference numbers are there. You can obviously write whatever you want over them, but it's just a way of just keeping things in order. What you want to do is you want to go one by one. You don't want to go write the reference numbers and then start filling it in, because you have no idea how much detail is going to go into there. The objective here, guys, and we're going to talk a bit more as we go into the details in the next part, isn't to go into like so high depth detail that you've got like 50 pages of specifications on just one process. The idea here is to capture the details that are the most important details that allow you to go from idea to execution as you move from each part of the sequence. So this is where you're going to put the cross-reference number. So on the design and in the sequence pages, we know exactly what we're looking at. You can consider this a lot like a footnote. Obviously, it's not a footnote, but you get what I mean. And the last part is creating the detail notes. And so we have an example here. As you can see, the first one is 4 lines, okay, and the next one is just a single line. So as you can see, that the details for each one of them is going to differ. My suggestion is you got to be very simple, you got to be very quick, but you need to be also very specific. The more point form you can be, the better, okay? So point form. You want to capture things that are vital. So if there's something that just has to be at a certain spec, it has to be there. If there's something that you need to avoid, it needs to be there. If there's something that doesn't exist that you need to acquire, or you need to be resourceful to fix or resolve, you put that detail there, right? This is not designed to write an essay per process. That's not what this is, right? We need to be brief, simple, and to the point, and that's how we bring the 3 steps under the sequencing process all together.